The the Bulgarians, the Serbians, and the Bosnians are of the Slavonic blood, now united in one great national effort against the intrusive Turks. Serbia was chief of the movement. She could not forget her proud position which she had held before the Ottomans had come into Europe, when her great king Stefan Dušan ruled victoriously from Belgrade to the Maritsa, from the Black Sea to the Adriatic, and assumed the high title of Emperor of the Romanians, Macedonia, Christ-loving Tsar. Besides these Slavonic nations, the Scriptars of Albania now armed against the common enemy from Asia. The powers of the allied against Amurad expected also the received assistance from the semi-Roman population of Wallachia and from the Magyars of Hungary, who, like their kinsmen the Ottoman Turks, had won by force a settlement in Europe, but who, unlike the Turks, adopted the creed and the civilians of European Christendom, and became for age its chivalrous defenders. Slavonic Poland, Sclavonic Poland, also sent aid to their sister Sclavonic kingdom of the south. No further succor was obtainable. The other great kingdom of the family of nations, Russia, lay at this time in wretched slavery under the Mongols. The great kingdoms of Western Christendom heard with indifference the sufferings and the perils to which its eastern portions were exposed by the new Mohammedan power. The old crusading enthusiasm had faded away, nor could indeed the immediate stimulant of a cry to the rescue of the Holy Land be employed against the Ottomans, who had not yet approached the Syrian territory. The internal conditions at the latter part of the 14th century of each of the great European states which had supplied the heroes of the early crusade was peculiarly unfavorable for the efforts of those. For the connection between the Magyars, the Huns of Attila, and the Ottoman Turks, the Lantan. Strife of arose their descendants to a similar expedition, and the personal character of the foragians of England, France, and Germany in 1388 forbade all hopes of seeing the examples of Richard Coeur de Lion, of Edward I, Philip Augustus of St. Louis, of Conrad, and Frederick II, imitated by their successors. The weak and worthless Richard II was sovereign of England. The imbecile Charles VI was enthroned at Paris. Both countries were the scenes of prepared to strive between powerful nobles and the general confusion and lawlessness. The German Empire under the coarse and desolate Wenceslaus was in a still more wretched condition at the great civil war between the Confederation at Brigand and Knights at the burghers of the freed cities was raging from the Danube to the Rhine. The Christian princes of Spain were still fully occupied with their long struggle against their own Moorish invaders. The difficulty of uniting the powers of the West in any enterprise against the common foe of their religion was augmented tenfold by the schism of the papacy which divided the whole of Western Christendom. Consciences were perplexed, zeal was distracted, and chilled skepticism and indifference were created by the conflicting pretensions and behests of two popes, and at Avignon and one at Rome, each of whom anathematized the author and his adherents with assiduity and animosity at least equal, and any that could be displayed against the Ottomans. But also the great powers of Western Christendom stood aloof from the struggle made by the Christian nations at the East to free themselves from the pressure of the Ottoman conquest. Amurath saw the league which the ruler of Serbia had succeeded in organizing against him was one of which it would tax his utmost energies to encounter. He made full and cautious arrangements for the military protection and civil government of the Asiatic states, and then recrossed the Hellespont with the design of baffling the superior resources of his enemies by the celerity of the operations. The Bulgarians and Serbians had commenced the war by falling upon the Ottoman army which was moving through Bosnia. They destroyed 15 out of 20,000 Turks by the impetuous suddenness of their attack and the great superiority of their numbers. After this vigorous blow, the Christians relaxed in their exertions, the valations and delays which usually marked the movements of the Confederacy keep the forces of the greater number of the allies inactive during the several months of the year 1389, while their vigorous and resolute adversary was pouring his forces into Bulgaria and completing all the conquests of the important member of their league. Amurath was especially incensed against this one, the Bulgarian king, who had kept up the appearance of the submissive devotion of the Turkish interests, until he suddenly joined the Serbians in the attack upon his son-in-law's forces in Bosnia. The necessity of making regulation for the defense and internal governments of Romania during the war, and of calling into active service and arranging the full military force of the province detained Amurath himself for a short time in Adrianople, but he sent his general Ali Pasha forward into Bulgaria with an army of 30,000 men. The Turks now 1389 marched northwards to conquest across the mountain chain for the Balkan. Which their descendants in the present century trust to the earnestly as a barrier against attacks upon themselves. Ali Pasha advanced with the main army through the passes of the Nadir Derband upon Shumla, so celebrated in modern Russian wars. Shumla surrendered to the Turks, nor has it yet ever been retaken from them. Tirnova and Pravadi were also captured by Ali Pasha and his lieutenant Yakshi, and the Bulgarian king took refuge in Nicopolis on the Danube. Ali Pasha besieged him there and Siswan begged for peace. Amurath granted it on condition that Silistra should be ceded to him and that the conquered Siswan should pay him a regular tribute. But disputes broke out as to the fulfillment of the terms of peace. The war was recommenced, and the Turks stormed the strong places of Dirija and Hirshova, besieged again in Nicopolis. The Bulgarian king surrendered at discretion. His life was spared, but Bulgaria was now annexed to the Ottoman Empire, which thus advanced its northern frontier to the Danube. The Serbian king Lazarus, alarmed at the destruction of his confederate, now earnestly collected the forces of the remaining members at the Anti-Turkish League and prepared for a resolute struggle. So large was the force which he drew around him, that in the pride and confidence of his heart he sent Amurath a formal challenge to a decisive battle. Amurath had now taken in person the command of the Turkish army and continued his policy of acting on the offensive and making his enemy territory the seat of war. He marched westward from Bulgaria through a difficult and intense country to the neighborhood of Kosovo on the frontiers of Serbia and Bosnia, where his enemies had collected their troops. The plain of Kosovo, on which the fate of Serbia was decided on the 27th of August 1389, is traversed by the little stream of Schnitza. On the north side of the rivulet, the combined levies of Serbia, Bosnia and Albania, with their auxiliaries from Poland, Hungary and Wallachia, were arrayed in numbers of exceeding those of the troops which Amurath had in hand of battle. According to the Ottoman historians, Amurath summoned a council of war to deliberate whether he should attack the enemy that seemed so superior in force. Several of the Turkish chiefs advised that he should draw up all the camels of their baggage train in the line before the army, so as to serve as a living rampart and to disorder the enemy's horse by the sight and smell of those animals. Amurad's eldest son, Prince Bayazid, opposed this project. He fiercely urged that heaven had ever manifestly favored the arms of the House of Ottoman, and that to employ such artifices would show a distrust of Providence. The honor of our flag, said he, requires that those who march beneath the crescent should meet their enemy face to face, let that enemy be who he will. The Grand Vizier gave his vote also for open fighting, on the authority of what he believed to be supernatural warning. He had opened the Koran at random, and he had fallen upon the verse, O Prophet, fight the unbelievers and the hypocrites. He had tried this sort's Koranics again, and the verse which then presented itself was, verily a large host is often beaten by a weaker one. Another official, by Beylerbey, Lord of Lords, Timurtash, also opposed the shame of the camels and reasons not of religion, but of common sense. He said that it was probable that the camels themselves would take fright at the sight and sound of the hostile cavalry, and then they would rush back on the Turkish ranks, and create there the confusion which it was wished to cause amid the enemy. Night put an end to the deliberations of the council without any settled plan being formed. Amrad had observed that the wind blew from the side of the enemy, wafting clouds of dust, which threatened to cause serious disadvantage to his troops in the action. He spent the whole night in earnest prayer for the aid of heaven, and asked that it might be vouchsafed him to close his life in fighting for the true faith, the only deed that ensures the martyr's prize for eternal felicity. In the outer camp, the discussions of the Confederate princes were equally long and uncertain. Some advised an attack on the Turks by night, the revenge probably for the disaster of the Maritza 26 years before. Others opposed this plan as full of risk and confusion, and also became the enemy would have a better chance for escaping in the night than if they waited for daylight for the victory, which they deemed secure. The morning at last broke upon the two camps, and with the dawn there came a heavy fall of rain, which completely laid the dust and seemed to Amurath and his followers to be an express sign that God was with them.